Hey there, fellow creatures of the night. Vamp Daddy here for another episode of my Spooky Goth Adventures. And this episode is a long overdue follow up to part one of Dark Castle Festival. This time around, I'm going to be interviewing Shahn from Dark Castle Fest. Shahn is the one of the coordinators, event promoters for this event, and you'll see here in just a second, like his take on it. We discuss a lot of different things, everything from the bands that attended, what's involved in putting a festival together, more about that festival specifically. I mean, kind of like the state of the scene for goth music right now, especially live music, which is this quick divergence that I want to talk about here in this video before we move on to the interview. I just want to kind of encourage everybody. I know I don't have a big reach here on YouTube, but I really want to encourage people to go out to do more live shows, because if you're involved in the goth music scene, and of course there's this never-ending debate as to, is goth a music-based subculture or is it just a feeling? And I maintain the attitude that it's both. It's a music-based subculture based around a dark atmospheric environment. So that being said, I just really think that going to shows, especially live shows, is really important, and not just for the big legacy bands, you know, bands like The Cure or Bauhaus or Susie or Sisters of Mercy. I think going to live shows shows support for the smaller bands coming up in the scene. It gives you, the club goer or the concert goer, the opportunity to meet a lot of other people that are into the same kind of stuff that you're into. It validates the bands going out and making the music that they're doing, gives you an opportunity to meet the bands, get photos with them, buy their merch directly, show your support, and really just make friends. You know, you can make a lot of good connections that way. So that's my soapbox for just a moment. But without further ado, here is the interview with Shahn Rigsby of Dark Castle Festival and Radio Arcane. Enjoy. All right. Hello, everybody. I am here with Shahn Rigsby, one of the founders of Radio Arcane. I guess you'd say you're like the jack of all trades, and pretty much one of the leading forces behind Dark Castle Fest. And he's going to just chat with us real quick and talk about a few things going on, both with the festival, what Radio Arcane does, and maybe what's to come next for you guys. So without further ado, here's Shahn. Thank you for stepping in to do this. So Shahn, you have a lot of fires in the burner. You've got Radio Arcane, Dark Castle Fest. You've got your own project, Motuvius Rex. And then you've got a reformation of the Kentucky Vampires. So that's a lot of different fire stoking there. So thank you for joining me. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So now the festival is over, and you had bands both Friday and Saturday evening. So what was the impetus, first off, of getting Dark Castle started, the festival itself?
Well, I think the idea of doing a festival really began when we were selected to do Convergence 26 in Louisville. And that was obviously ruined by the pandemic. And it just never really kind of I don't know, I guess Convergence just permanently ended. I don't know if they'll ever come back or what will happen. So we had already been through all the preparations. We've printed posters. Everything was done for Convergence 26. Of course, it was totally different bands then than what we ended up doing later. But we just got in the mode of maybe we should go on ahead and do a festival. And then 2022, it just kind of happened. Twin Tribes, Wingtips, Phasm, Faux Fear, and Blood Handsome were all wanting the same date in July. And so we just started with kind of an accidental festival with not much time to prepare. And then for 2023, I went ahead and started, I don't know, looking for bands that I felt really wanted to kind of get a sound with. I wanted to kind of curate something that was a little more unique. That there's so many festivals and they're all great and stuff, but we wanted something that maybe, I don't know, was a little bit different. And as much as I love synths and drum machines myself, I wanted something that was a little more guitar centric, you know, more live bass guitars, more live guitars. Yeah, with my own project, there's definitely a lot of folk elements and stuff, you know, that I don't get in a lot of other festivals. There's a lot of other platforms for post and EBM, and you know, and that's all great. There's just not a lot of platforms in the United States for anything that's doing, like, I don't know. I wouldn't say that Dark Castle itself was, you know, fully traditional Gothic rock, because it wasn't, but there was at least that element, you know, with the Waning Moon and the Kentucky Vampires for sure. And a lot of the other bands have elements of that, and a lot of I don't know, dark romance, and that's mostly what I'm looking for, more than like Gothic itself. That's just kind of an umbrella term, but things that are kind of darkly romantic, I suppose.
Right. So definitely that's interesting. You know, that could almost be like a tagline of like the accidental festival. But that was an interesting lineup you had last year. And what having now the festivals behind us, I did hear people commenting what you brought to this fest was, it definitely had that dark romantic feel to it, with a tinge of mysticism, which I feel like encompasses a lot of goth and especially gothic rock. But you definitely brought bands that provided something for everybody musically, taste wise, whether if they were into more, I don't want to say electronic, but more dance oriented goth, you know, things that have more of like a toe tapping beat. Um, so what was that selection like? You know, you've got those kind of bands, you've got more of the moodier, slowed down operatic type bands like Palace of Tears.
Neurofarm.
Was that part of the selection process? You know, you wanted to kind of, you said you curated it, so were you kind of looking to do something for everybody, or was it more just your taste that you were looking to book?
I think it really was more my taste, honestly. I was hoping for, you know, a broad appeal and something unique, but I did purposefully sort of avoid the more aggro type bands.
Right.
I avoid the more metal oriented bands, the more, I guess, industrial rock and stuff like that. I was looking more towards, I don't know, psychedelia, romance, goth, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we brought in some experimental stuff too. I'm a big fan of early industrial, not so much current industrial.
Right.
But I love the creative, artistic expression. I mean, that's what Sinister Senile kind of came from. And uh, I wanted to book a showcase of some of Louisville's own, at least for this one, you know, to have some of a pretty large portion of local bands too. I don't know that I'll continue to always have that much local as we did in this one, but I just felt like there's a lot of really great things going on here and not a lot of people know about it.
I agree with that one. You know, when I would talk to people about it, or even comments I saw online, I think it was even I don't remember who it was, but it was a band that was going, and they were like, you know, the last place you'd think of for a festival like this would be Louisville, Kentucky, and but that's kind of the genius behind it, is it's the last place you'd think of a festival like that. And I really enjoyed the fact that you did bring out that Louisville Midwest kind of flavor into the event, focusing on some of those bands, and it was a great lineup, it really was. So, you know, So now that you've done this and it's kind of now taken on this life of its own, what comes next? What do you go forward with? Keep trying to do more of the same, or are you looking to broaden it out further?
That is a good question. I think one thing we probably will do is push it back a little bit further next year because it was very hot.
Yes.
In late July.
Mm-hmm.
We are centrally located. We have a lot of great bands around the region. But I mean, I would love to have bands from Europe or South America if we could afford them. That's another thing is affordability. We had some
Right.
bands that hit us up that, they were like 2,000 up guarantees. I mean, and I love you, but we can't afford that.
Right.
And I did want probably at least a couple of them would have loved to have them here. It's just, and I understand. I mean, it's not every band's worth more than we could even pay. We can't pay that much. It's just not realistic unless we started pulling in. Our venue only holds, I guess, probably realistically about 600 people. It could probably hold more, like 700, but not very comfortably. Legally.
I was very impressed with Art Sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
It's very deceptive. Like when you get in there, I don't know if it's the ceiling height or what it is, but it just really feels like a huge venue. Gosh, that almost seems like it could hold more, like just based off of.
It could hold more as far as the space itself. It's a 26,000 square foot building, but we have 40 artists with studios upstairs. That back room is about 4,000 square feet where the backstage was, and the is about 10,000 square feet. The problem becomes parking and how much volume our bar can actually hold after a point too.
Right.
A lot of it's our the population limit is really put there by the fire marshal, not by us.
Yeah.
We have to definitely hold to their rules. But I mean, we've had some events that did sell out, and it can get I don't know. It can get we need more bathrooms, for instance.
Right.
We have 3 in one room and 1 in the other, but we had actually portalets there just because there was enough people, but we didn't even hardly use them because it was so hot out.
Wow.
That was
Better safe than sorry, though. So
yeah.
that was a fun aroma if it got too full. So
we do that often. We have a garage door that rolls up in the back,
mm-hmm.
and we just open that up and people can go outside. But it was just so freaking hot. So sorry for fright bites outside in the food truck zone, the whole time.
So yeah, you offered a really crowd size aside, like I feel like 600, like that's quite a bit. My festival experience so far to date, Absolution Fest has been the biggest, but that felt like it was too crowded, and I think when you start narrowing the numbers down, it provides a little bit of more intimacy. It gives you an opportunity to interact more with other attendees, and it also gives you a chance to interact more with the bands and the artists that are present.
True.
So I really liked that aspect of the festival, the fact that you had an area where all the bands were able to set up and sell their merch. You didn't have to go hunting for them, and I think that's the nice thing about a smaller festival. And it still felt like a good sized fest.
Yeah.
And so, what was the idea behind? Which I love dark markets. In fact, it took every bit of restraint not to go spend a lot or much at the market area because you had such a good diverse selection of vendors. But from what I've seen, it seems really difficult both for festivals and even just a regular concert going experience to bring in vendors like that. Um, what prompted you to want to go down that path to bring in the vendors?
Well, we actually do Dead of Night in the Dark Market every month,
Okay.
last Friday of every month. So we have been hosting a dark market, flea market, arts market for a few years, and it existed even before it came to Art Sanctuary. Um, so it's a popular thing. I think we've got a really great local group of people that love doing it. There's a lot of great stuff too. I mean, they make some really cool stuff. If you were looking for like unique Christmas gifts and things, you're not going to go to the dark market, and so we do that monthly. But this, of course, had people from out of state and things like that added in with it too. And you were talking about the kind of, I guess, mystical occult element,
Mm-hmm.
but my background's in Thelema. We've got people from the Gardnerian Wicca to Church of Satan to everything, like there's a lot of people involved that are in the occult world
Yeah,
within
and
the market itself. And I know a few COS priests of Mendez were in attendance. So one of our sound guys and the cat that works the door are Gardnerian Wiccans, and that element is definitely there. That there is even the sinister minister is a Church of Satan.
yeah, and I did see that part there. I do appreciate that with with what I saw with Dark Castle is that excuse me, I apologize. You see that a lot within goth or gothic subculture of there's always like this element of the occult that gets tied in with the music and the imagery, whether it's religious, meaning like Judeo-Christian or pre-Judeo-Christian, Wiccan, and you hear it in the music, you see it a lot in the imagery, but seeing it like out at events, a lot of times people kind of like try to push it aside because they don't want to offend anybody. And I kind of feel like, well, this is what the scene is and what it's about. So it kind of goes hand in hand. And I did appreciate that you weren't afraid to put that front and center, or at least have it visible and not just like in the closet at the event. So,
Hey, everybody's welcome. Christians can come too.
right.
I'm not prejudiced against any of them, but we're open to atheism, to you could be Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, doesn't matter, as long as you're peace and love and you are about community. But no, I'm not going to be shamed. Not going to be.
Well, yeah, I don't. I'm not talking about like shaming, but I do feel like a lot of events they'll use the imagery on their flyers. They'll use
Right. I
they'll use you'll bands will use it in their lyrics. They'll use it also in their imagery and their dress. But then when you get to a concert or a festival, like it's nowhere to be seen. And I appreciated that like it wasn't, and I think the vendor market was able to express that more because you were seeing people's wares that they were making and the things that they were selling. If that element was able to shine a little bit more, and I've always felt it goes hand in hand. And other promoters, not to slam any of them, but it seems like they it's performative, and I'm not saying that's their intent, but they definitely push it to the side.
yeah, yeah. I see a lot of like not, I guess contrived occultism. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe appropriated, and that is very popular right now. And I don't feel like that is me at all. I mean, um, I'm a person 24/7, basically.
Yeah.
It is me. It's who I am, and I mean, I think that's a lot of people in our community as well. And, I think you probably noticed a large variety of people there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the fact that as a attendee, uh, there was a lot of inclusivity. Didn't matter gender, orientation, and that seemed to be front and center there. And I did like the fact it was a variety of ages as well. I noticed in talking to other promoters as well, like they'll see, I don't want to say a younger crowd, but younger crowds tend to do more of like the nightclubs and the dance nights. But when it comes to live music, they're sadly, it's always kind of skews to older. And I did
It's
notice
true.
at the festival it was a good mix in ages. So
Yeah, there is a lot of support for our events from a lot of the younger people. I will agree. I think that they are more interested in just the socializing sometimes and the dancing and stuff than probably some of the bands. But I think they do I think they like the bands. And, um, I don't know. For my generation, which is Generation X, I mean,
same, yeah,
bands were everything. you know,
right,
like going to
right.
see bands was the thing to do, the most exciting thing to do. And I still want to represent that, like I have nothing against, I'm a DJ myself. And I mean, we have DJs there and stuff, and I want DJs there, but like, I can't help but want to focus still on music, you know, for the festival. I mean, we do a DJ night every month, you know.
Yeah, and this is other conversations I've had, in even other interviews I've done for, online. The idea is like, the DJs out there, uh, you know, DJs were the ones that curate the music for the people dancing in a club. And
Yeah.
so I think a lot of DJs get afraid to um, bring new music out. And I see a change, a definite shift. But, I think for a while everybody was so stuck in like, okay, I've got to play the classics, I've got to play the popular stuff, I've got to play more of the EBM stuff in order to keep that dance floor packed. And they kind of get afraid to try a new band out, and which is unfortunate. But I do see the shift, and I think that is kind of helping to bring in the younger people. So
The
I
DJs are the biggest supporters of live music, though,
yeah,
too. I want to add that. And without DJs, like none of us would be known at all. And it's all due to uh, the DJs internationally that support us, that play our music, that anybody knows anybody exists. Because radio is not going to play, I don't know that radio even matters anymore. I don't, that kind of thing.
I would say the only like, which is still kind of cool, how many years later, that I think where radio may matter would be more like maybe like college radio, if you're in
I
towns
mean,
that
we
have
still
a
stream our own radio, but it's just because I love it. We don't make any money from it.
right, right.
Just
Like I had a chance to, and
radio.
I'll,
We want a radio station that plays things that I want it to play and not uh, be beholden to anything like that.
yeah. So I did a college radio out about a week or so ago. The people that from the band Ghost Painted Sky, they do a DJ show for University of Massachusetts Amherst, in this town out in the middle of nowhere. So it's a huge campus. It's almost like a mini city, and the kids there on that campus, like they love the fact that they've got a goth program that they can turn to, and they're getting to hear all that new music still. Yeah, there's the internet. You can do online radio, which I think is fantastic. I think that has definitely revolutionized things, and
Mhm.
Twitch. Um, but there's still something that is kind of there, having somebody local that you can connect with, especially if you're at a college campus in the middle of nowhere. So I am seeing college radio still be relevant.
Mhm.
Um, you know,
We have an independent radio station here in Louisville called Art XFM that's really cool.
nice.
But the frequency is probably not going to be outside of uh, you know, right inside the city. You
Right.
can hear it in the inner part of the metro, but like if you go very far, you're going to lose the signal.
Yeah. So
But it's
with
cool.
all of this, I want to talk about real quick, Fright Bites. That was a great touch. And
There,
if you could pass the word along, if they ever consider traveling outside of your area to other venues, like their food was fantastic.
I love them. They are super awesome, and their food is amazing and creative. Uh, they do our dark market frequently too, and serve up horror themed treats, like cookies, and they do all this beautiful artwork. Sometimes it's hard to even eat them because they're so cool, like a horror themed, Friday the 13th or Frankenstein or whatever, and it's just
Mm.
cool. But you eat it anyway.
Yeah. So for those out there watching this, Fright Bite was a small, like catering type service that made food, but they had vegan, vegetarian, omnivore based food, but it all seemed very I don't want to say southern, but it kind of was because it was all like barbecue and mac and cheese and
Yeah,
coleslaw and
yeah.
so good, really good food. And you're right, like I felt so bad for them being out in that heat.
It was so hot. Oh my
Um,
God.
I have a screen cap on my phone I took because it was midnight. It was like 12:03 on Friday evening, and my phone said it was 89 degrees in Louisville at midnight, and I was, that was
And of
rough.
course, now it's gorgeous here now. Like the temperature to like 80. It's beautiful. It was just like that was just happened to have, it was going
That
to just
heat
be the
wave.
hottest weekend of all time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So we'll start to wrap this up here. So going forward next year, have you guys started thinking that far ahead? I know you're in the recovery mode now and kind of analyzing how the event went for you, but are you thinking of this is going to go on next year?
Yeah, but we are going to push it back. I know A Murder of Crows is on Labor Day, so we're not going to probably do that. We're looking kind of at late September maybe, because I know Absolution is in early October. I know it's starting to get crowded with all the different festivals, but um, I don't know. There's a reason why people don't want to do it in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Or the
Just
middle of the winter too. If you're in Chicago, you don't want to do a January event because you might get snowed out.
um, the other way to go, if not in the fall, which is always a great time for, especially for, goth or dark themed events. Autumn is always good, but potentially the spring. So,
Yeah. There's a lot of festivals in the spring too, though. Like we usually do Goth Prom in the spring now, and like in May, but that's like right always around Movement and Wave Gothic Treffen and all that. Those are
yeah.
further away, but
So yeah, we've got Dark Spring Boston. This is they just finished their second year up here in Boston, and they do that beginning of May
right.
for the same reasons where it's like, okay, they know they've got Treffen coming, towards around middle to end of the month, and there's all sorts of stuff. So
It's almost impossible for us that are going to do it to not kind of. And Cold Waves is in September too, and we have festivals here in September like Bourbon and Beyond and Louder Than Life and stuff. They're not in our genre, but
right.
it's just I don't know.
I know this past weekend was also Terminus,
Okay,
which
I
is
mean it's
not goth, but it's adjacent.
right. That's the thing is like we just have to look for our niche and hope that we find a market for it. I don't know that will we will cross over with uh, Absolution some. We've already used some of the same bands they have in the past. Twin Tribes, Wingtips, and things like that. But I do think that we're different flavor, even though it's the same.
I, I you could say like I think it's unavoidable at this point because of how small the scene is that there's going to be overlap.
Yeah,
Um, and not everybody can make that trek to, if there's a festival in Florida or if it's in California, Not everybody can make the trek or the journey all the way to those different parts of the country.
Right.
So it's kind of good. And I last year, the same weekend as Absolution, there were several bands like Haypax and oh gosh, there was another band. They had played like New York City, and they were making their way down to Tampa. And the same weekend as Absolution, there was another festival that popped up in Tampa or Atlanta. Those bands are playing that festival, like they would play that festival like Thursday night, and then they play Tampa Friday night.
So that's kind of where I'm looking at the pocket. Like, you could do a Murder of Crows in New York, and then maybe go to Cold Waves in Chicago, and then maybe come through to us, and then maybe go down to Tampa for Absolution if you're a band.
Right.
You know, I don't know. Try not to do it the same weekend, but maybe if it's in a close proximity to those things,
Right.
for bands at least, you know, they could kind of like.
Right. It makes it good for, yeah, it makes it good for the band traveling. It could even make it okay if somebody's like a festival junkie that's like, okay, I'm going to follow these bands around the country. There's no overlap and no issue. So, yeah. But well, congratulations on it. That was a really good time. It beat. I don't want to say, I kind of. I don't want to say I set my expectations low, but I didn't have. I didn't know what to expect, and I wasn't going to hype myself up for it to be disappointed. And fortunately, like I was not disappointed, and I had a really fun time. And I would, if timing and finances and everything works out, I would come back next year for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear it. I'd love to see you again.
Yeah. So I'm going to close this out though with a fun question, which is
Okay.
what I asked everybody that I interviewed. So last week, I had before Congress the one of the whistleblowers that claims that the U.S. has a secret program trying to reverse engineer alien technology of unknown origin, and that they have the term was non-human intelligence biologics, i.e., or meaning aliens. And so my question for you, because I've asked the UFO abduction question a lot, and I ask about tacos a lot. These biologics, these aliens, non-human intelligence, if they're going to have tacos, would they prefer soft shell tacos or hard shell?
Soft shell's definitely easier to eat, but hard shell's a little tastier to me. I'd have to go with soft shell though.
Soft shell. Oh, okay. That's good. So what's the reason for it? Because it's easier to eat?
Yeah.
Okay. That's funny because everybody else went hard shell, so you threw the curve out there, went soft. Albie's reasoning for it was that uh, these aliens would be eating humans, and therefore, if they were having a if they put humans into the tacos, they'd want hard shell to make it crunchier, so you wouldn't hear the bones crunching. So, yeah. Well, very cool. Soft
Soft's
shell.
easier to eat when you're flying a UFO.
Oh, that's very good logic. Much more easier to eat when you're trying to pilot. So, maybe they were eating hard shell tacos, and that's why their UFOs crashed because they were just making a mess all over their cockpits and
True.
So. Well, awesome. So I'll go ahead and close the interview out here. And thank you so much again, Shahn.
Thank
And
you.
how can we find more info about Radio Arcane and Dark Castle Fest and Motuvius Rex?
Motuvius Rex is available on all streaming platforms and Bandcamp. Um, Radio Arcane is a website with a streaming radio station. It even has automated requests you can make from our library. And Dark Castle is darkcastlefest.com. And we'll probably be putting out submission information in the not too distant future for next year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
And there you have it. That is my interview with Shahn Rigsby from Dark Castle Festival and Radio Arcane. So I hope you enjoyed that. Love to hear your comments below, what you think about Dark Castle Fest specifically, the contents of the interview, and just in general how you feel about going to live shows versus staying at home and just buying music or not even being involved in the scene to a level that you're going out and supporting bands like that. But yeah, just love to hear the feedback that you might have. Otherwise, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and as always, keep it spooky.